Perfect. It does look like we're live, so I will be checking to make sure.
That's good.
Okay, and we will be getting started here momentarily. So as you are starting to hop onto the video, do me a huge favor and react to the video with either a thumbs up or another emoji. You can also start to comment on the video so I see who you are, quick hello, good morning message, or any other type of pleasantry would be appreciated as well. All right, well, we'll go ahead and get kicked off. Today is Wednesday. Believe it or not, it's Wednesday, September 1st, and I don't know where the summer months have gone, but they flew by. And I am so excited for my Wednesday broadcasts because they are an opportunity for me to get to share with you some of the amazing professionals that we have engaged in our organization. We get an opportunity to hear about them and kind of what they do, not only professionally, but of course in their personal lives. And so before I get started with this broadcast, I do like to kind of backtrack and give you guys some housekeeping rules and guidelines and all that good stuff. If it is your very first time on our Facebook page, I hope that you continue to come back to us. Make sure that you hit the like button, that you're also following the page so that way you can get those notifications when we go live and when we post other content throughout the day or throughout the week. Of course, we are also streaming this on our YouTube channel, Westminster Chamber of Commerce. For those of you that know others that are not Facebook savvy, you can always direct them over there. Now, we're on all things social media. Believe it or not, our different social media pages mean that we share with you messages a little bit differently. There's content that we post on one versus the other. You can find us on those pages. That is LinkedIn, Westminster Chamber of Commerce. You can also find us on our Twitter page and Instagram page at Westy Chamber. Of course, our website, if you haven't already gone to it, is westminsterchamber.biz. And this is where you can find a lot of information as it relates to not only our businesses, but services that we offer, resources that are in the community, and other major announcements. Now, if you're a returning viewer, then I appreciate you continuing to come back to our broadcasts. We've held them for exactly a year and 6 months to the day. So it's a year and 6 months ago that we first kicked these videos off. We have since paired them back to Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, still delivering fresh content information for you as a business owner, and of course, allowing this platform to be able to introduce some of those newer members to our network as well. And if you are a returning viewer, then I also want to thank you because you already know that you can comment on this video with any remarks that you might have. If you have any questions that come to mind, you can also type them in for our guest. And of course, hit the share button on this video video so that others in your network can also see the information and kind of drop what they're doing and start to engage with us along the way. Now, Sarah, I'm very excited to have you on this broadcast this morning.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. Been looking forward to it.
So let's get right into it. So everyone knows your name is Sarah Legault, and hopefully I didn't butcher your last name, but can you tell me a little bit more about kind of just you personally? Who is Sarah?
Yes, Sarah Lugo. I am originally from San Antonio, Texas. I've been here for about a total of 16 years. I spent the last couple of years back in Texas. And when I was there, I just missed Denver so much. I graduated from Stanley Lake High School right there in Westminster, and it's just where I call home now. And I have a 4-year-old son, and it's where I want to raise him as well. So I'm so happy to be here, and yeah.
That is awesome. So I don't know that I even knew that about you, that you were originally from Texas. So that's kind of, I was your neighboring state out in Oklahoma for a while, but I too understand that once you go back there, you're kind of like, I'm missing that quality of life. I'm missing the outdoors, the different things that you can do, right? And so what's been something, so you were here for Stanley Lake, which is an area school that's here in Westminster. I know that we have a lot that generally hop on at some point that also were alumni from there. So if you see that comment, I'll let you know whenever they holler in. But so you came back and you have a 4-year-old son who's also in the Jeffco School District?
He's going to the Wooden Shoe right now. So it's right there in Westminster, right here in Westminster as well. He's only 4, so he's in pre-K right now. But next year, it's the plan to put him into the Jeffco School District.
Yeah, well, that is awesome. And so you began into kind of your line of work, I want to say recently. And can you give us a little bit about that and when you started kind of venturing into the line of work that you have?
Yeah, so I was I've been a server and a bartender for 12 years. It was just really, really comfortable to me. It was good money. I liked the scheduling. I loved what I did. And then I just kind of started thinking I needed to do something different for the past couple of years. And then after COVID hit, I went to work at a restaurant in San Antonio, and they were like, "Oh, we're closing down. Like everything is shutting down." And I'm like, "Okay." So I went back home and wasn't sure what I was going to do. And then it was just kind of the kick that I needed to make the career change that I had been talking about and thinking about. And so I started looking into what I wanted to do. And I came across a friend who is a loan officer and just got to talking with her about it and decided that I wanted to give it a try. It sounded really exciting and challenging, and to be able to help people realize their dream of owning a home is just something that I think that I thought I would do really well at. So I did my licensing and I took my test, and I kind of was picky about where I landed as far as a permanent position. And I ended up here at Cross Country Mortgage at the beginning of this year, and I've been going ever since.
That is an awesome story, and I've got so many questions on it already, but I don't want to lose sight that Wayne Anderson, our board chairman, is tuned in. He just shared with us a nice good morning message, both to you, Sarah, and myself. So thanks for hopping on, Wayne. Sarah, you just gave us so much to go off of, because one of the questions that I always like to ask is, how did COVID affect your business, et cetera? And COVID affected you in a big way. I mean, this really shook your life up. And so, between having a 4-year-old, which at the time was probably around 3, right? When everything really unfolded, you had a choice to make of, do I keep bouncing around and figure out what's still out there in such an uncertainty, or do I take this and go a different direction? And you use that challenge into an opportunity. And I think that speaks volumes about you personally, and taking that risk and going full in. So kudos on changing such a big change from what you were actually doing before.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
What has been the biggest, I was going to say, what's been the biggest challenge, but it's all been challenges, I can imagine, for you. So what has been like the biggest thing that you didn't realize going into it that you're like, oh, wow, this is a learning opportunity for me?
Yeah. So it's all been very different, going from the service industry to the mortgage industry, and it at the end of the day, it's essentially a sales position, and they're like, oh well, you're in sales as a server and a bartender, but it's a little bit different because I'm selling meals that people come in to already get versus mortgages to purchase homes. I think one of the biggest things that I've noticed is when I started it and coming back into it, everyone was coming back from COVID. So I'm starting it just brand new. Everything is new and fresh. And the people that have been doing it that I work with now, that have been mentoring me, training me, any kind of events that I'm going to for networking and business and stuff like that, it's it's different in two ways because everyone's
Mhm.
just like, how do we do this post COVID? And I'm just like, how do I do this? Because I'm new. So that's kind of been one of the big things that I've realized is I'm starting it at a place where everyone is also kind of starting off kind of new. So it's kind of been challenging, but it's been a lot of fun, and it's been helpful in the sense that everyone's just getting back on track and everyone's
Yeah.
kind of just starting again. So to be able to jump in at that point in time, it does come with its challenges, but I feel like it's been kind of beneficial to, start with everybody else, and appreciated it.
I think that's such a great perspective to look at it with because you're right. Everyone, even the most seasoned in the industry, had to kind of
Mhm.
adjust to what's going on and what today looks like. And it's looked different than the last few, last several months, even from the last year. So you are at a position that's pretty unique. And I hadn't looked at it before like that. Is even though you're kind of newer in the industry, the more seasoned are also newly looking at the climate. And so you guys are kind of on the same footing from there. So a mortgage is a hot button issue, right? This is a topic that's being talked about. I think it just kind of goes hand in hand when we talk about housing, when we talk about real estate, and we're seeing such a boom in that market, or we have been at least for the last year. I mean, it's been for the last year, honestly. But there are always some myths around kind of mortgages. And I wanted to bring some of those forward just with the hopes of hearing from you and kind of your own perspective on this. So if people are concerned about financing options or even looking at homes and things like that, that these might give them a different perspective on it. But one of the things that I've often heard of is that you can't necessarily apply for a mortgage if you don't have perfect credit score or if your score is less than perfect. So I would say like the myth that's out there, right, is that you need perfect credit. What would you say to that?
That's definitely a huge one. People are so afraid, like, oh no, my credit is subpar or not very good. But that is simply not the case. Like I understand where it's coming from, and it does affect your rate slightly. Obviously, the better credit score you have, it does help a little bit, but it doesn't mean that it's impossible if you have a lower credit score. There's so many programs with FHA, like Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. They have Home Smart, just different programs that allow you, if you have a lower credit score, depending on like your where you stand with the average media income. So you don't need to be making a lot. You don't need to have a super high credit score to apply for and be qualified for a mortgage. And the biggest thing for me that people they just don't do it because they think they can't, they won't qualify. But it's as simple as, well, let's see. And if you
Mhm.
do, sometimes, like I have borrowers that it's like, okay, let's take a look at your credit score. Let's see what we can fix and how we can get it up. We can get your points up 20 to 40 points in a matter of a couple of months if you have someone that takes a look at it and can kind of advise you. And we're in no way financial advisors, but we can make recommendations, and after pulling your credit score, see, hey, if you pay this down a little bit, if you get that credit card down to 45%, that can drastically change your credit score and
Mhm.
bring it up. With FHA, you can have a credit score of 580 and still qualify for a mortgage. And a lot of people think if I'm not in the 700s, I'm not going to qualify. And it's simply not the case. And the first step to fixing that is seeing where you're at and
Mhm.
where we go from there. And
Yeah.
like it may not be right then at that point in time, but it's a great jumping point, and let's work on it and get you to where you need to be to get you into the home of your dreams.
Yeah, I think that, and thank you for answering that, because that is a valid concern too for anyone that is very conscious of kind of their financial situation, and it could potentially stop them from even going down the road because they've heard this or they have this idea. I do see our past board chairman, Brian Dice, is tuned in as well to the broadcast. Good morning to you, Brian. Thank you for hopping on. We have Sarah with us, who's giving us all things from her lens with Cross Country Mortgage. She is a newer partner of ours, single mom that's got 4-year-old, and I have had the pleasure of meeting him. Really super sweet. I've asked that she drop him off only in the moments that he's, super happy to love me, and then any other time she can take him back.
Right after nap time would be
Right.
it.
So I am just going to keep firing away if that's okay, Sarah. This next question that I have is more along the lines of if someone's also hesitant because they're thinking they have to put money down on purchasing a home, right? That they've heard you have to put money down up to about 20,000 or like this larger percentage of home buying. I would think that that's a case by case, that there's other factors that are in there, but what can you speak to from your lens as an expert on this?
Yeah, so you definitely don't need like 20,000 down. Of course, it's helpful anything that you can put down, or that, it's always a good idea to save to be able to bring something to put down for the purchase of a home, but it's definitely not necessary, and it's definitely not like at 20,000 plus. So there are, like I said, along with working with lower credit scores, FHA you can put as low as 3.5% down, and there's programs like CHAFA through Colorado that can allow you to bring very little to nothing down. There's a program, Metro DPA, that's specific to Colorado and counties in and around the Denver metro area, where they'll help you with the down payment process. And so there's so many options. There's a lot of programs, and I think that people simply don't know. They know what they've heard. They know what like, especially, I mean, and it's been a long time ago, 2008, and that whole, financial crisis that happened, like that's still stuck in people's minds. And you hear about that more than you hear about what's going on in 2021. And I think the best thing and the best way to go about that is just get the education. Like, I'm more than happy to answer any questions, to sit down with anybody and everybody and fill you in. There's so many options. And like, I could fill this broadcast with just talking about options for low down payment to no down payment, but I won't. But the thing is, people think that they've heard something, so they let that be their deciding factor. But it's just getting the information. As with anything, like, you don't know until you ask, until you find out. But yeah, there's so many different programs, and you don't need to have an 800 credit score and $30,000 in cash to buy a home. It's simply and thankfully not the case.
Absolutely. Well, here's another question that we can try and help with educating. I know we don't have the whole day, but we at least can touch some of these myths that initially get people more excited to come back and ask some additional questions that are out there. This question is along the lines of a pre-approved lender, or a lender that's basically pre-approved you for a mortgage. Are people stuck with that person? And I would think that this is something like, you started down the road dealing with someone, and maybe it wasn't the best experience, or maybe that person's no longer around or there, and you're like, what do I do? Do I no longer have this available to me, or what does that even look like?
You're definitely not stuck once you're pre-approved, and it's okay to shop for a lender. A lot of times, people think right away, "I'm looking into purchasing a home. Let me find a realtor," and like, realtors are my friends. Love them. I work closely with, we go hand in hand with the transaction with whoever we're helping. But at the end of the day, without a pre-approval and with approved for a loan, you don't really necessarily need to go shopping yet or that kind of thing. But first thing people think is, let me find a realtor, and then the realtor's like, here's my preferred lender, and that's great. And if they have a good working connection and it works well, awesome. But you have absolutely every right to shop for your own lender. And you can be pre-approved and go with whoever you feel most comfortable with, go whoever you got the best experience from. If it's rate, a lot of people have the one big thing. What's your one big thing? Is it you want the lowest rate? Is it you want to bring so much down, so much cash to the table? It's where you want to be. Like people have that one big thing. I need my monthly payment to be under $2,000. And different lenders provide different things. So it's absolutely okay to shop for a lender. And when you get your credit pulled by a mortgage company, you have a 30-day window to where other lenders, other mortgage lenders can pull it, and it won't hit your credit every time, because you should be able to. And it's honestly not the worst idea to find what's best for you. So you're definitely not stuck with the one person you get pre-approved from right away and with the one person that a real suggest. And if it works out well, that's awesome. And usually they have those good relationships, so it could be a good thing. But you're definitely not stuck by any means.
Yeah. And so there's a lot of mortgage representatives and companies that are out there, even officers, and so I'm going to ask you this question, and then it looks like there's a question that's also come through from our audience as well. But, in terms of you and this is part of the reason why we want people to know you personally, but, what is a unique factor about you or about your kind of the brand that supports you, or what's something that you would say, why me? Right? Like, why would people look at me as opposed to X, Y, and Z?
Yeah. For me, I'm just like, I genuinely want to help people. I feel like sometimes lenders have like a bad rep, or they're just out to get my money. And for me, like, if I do my job and if I do it well and if I help you, then everything else will follow, including being like, hey, I worked with Sarah. She was great. Like, here's her information. You have to go with her. So just, and because I am newer to the industry, like my drive, my determined, my dedication, I will answer every call. I will respond to every email, every text. Like, I'm not a seasoned pro that's like, oh, I'll get to it. I'm not taking vacations all year round and can't be like, I'm here, I'm ready, I'm hungry, and like, I'm going to do my best job. And the thing too is that I am surrounded by an amazing team. I mentioned earlier that when I was looking for a position, I was being picky. I passed my test in October, and I landed with them with Cross Country Mortgage at the beginning of this year because I wanted a good foundation. And they had a mortgage loan apprenticeship program that I completed. And they walked me through my first 5 files holding my hand. And we have a pipeline meeting every morning where we just bounce ideas off of each other with my branch manager who, runs his own branch. I can walk up to his desk, hey, I need help with this. And then a good thing about cross country and where I'm at too is a lot of times you'll be working with the lender and you're like, oh, I have to wait back to hear from my processor or my underwriter. Like, we have that all in house here. I can walk to their desk with like a treat in hand and be like, hey, what's going on with this file? Like, what do we need? How can I help? So just definitely my own personal hunger and drive, but then I'm just surrounded by so many people that are more than willing to help. And we just have everything in-house, which usually makes the process so much smoother and faster.
Yeah, and I love that you've used that word. Oh my gosh, like you and I are podcast fiends because you are speaking music to my ears. But it's there's a different type of appetite that's there, and there it goes a longer way whenever it's someone that's really, any type of question. I'm going to look into that because you're trying to learn about it too in that process. Brian's sharing his quick apologies for hopping on a little bit later, but since he is on, he did have a question for us, and I'm displaying this question right now, and then I'll go ahead and take a second to ask it of you, Sarah. If we have an answer, we'll go ahead and give that to him now, and if we have to come back to him, we'll do that, of course, later. But he's sharing, out of curiosity, seeing some of the things regarding forbearance people have been on with their mortgage, which are now expiring. So curious what you're seeing in regard to some of those forbearances that people have been on with their mortgages, which are now coming to an expiration.
Okay. Yeah, we are kind of seeing this. Thankfully, I mean, I hadn't originated any loans that took advantage of the forbearance process. We are seeing it now, and I think people have, especially like everything else has been kind of going more to normal. So far, what I have seen personally, and I don't want to speak about everybody and everything, but that people have been prepared. They've been telling you, hey, that's going to be an option at this point. This is expiring. So I think what I've seen for the most part is that people have been prepared. And we are just trying to do our best to see how, in the rare cases that we have seen, like what we can do or how we can try to help, and see what they need from us in order to be able to, continue to pay their mortgage. But for the most part, people have been kind of prepared because it has been coming. A lot of people are back to work. There's so many, everywhere I go, I see everything. Everyone is now hiring in at restaurants, businesses, things like that. So I'm honestly not super familiar with what's going on with the process. The things that I have seen, thankfully, people just have been more prepared. And that's kind of really all I know for right now about
Yeah.
that one.
Of course. And it is something that's, right around the corner. Thank you so much, Brian, for bringing this forward. It's a timely thing, and it's something that's pretty unique for, the market that we're in. And of course, the timing of COVID and all of that. That being said, I don't want to lose sight of sharing with people where they can connect with you directly. Is there a phone number that you would want to direct them to?
Sure. Just out loud. I can put it in the comments too, but yeah, my work number is 720-759-2477. And then I also have a website. My email is sarah.lugo at myccmortgage.com. And like I said, I'm always available. We work on weekends. If a borrower needs a new pre-approval letter, it's something that I can absolutely provide right away. And I like to get out on the weekends and check out open houses nearby just to see what's going on the other side of the market and industry. But yeah, I'm absolutely more than happy to help anybody out that needs it.
Absolutely. And thank you so much, Sarah, for all of that. For those of you that are interested, Sarah's website directly is crosscountrymortgage.com/Sarah-Lugo. Both her email and her phone number as well are included in the comment section of this video. So that way you can follow up with her directly if you would like. And if you are hopping on here and we're no longer live and you had a question for Sarah, or maybe you were watching and you didn't feel comfortable asking it, you can always insert it into our inbox, or you can comment it on the video directly and we'll be able to get to it. Of course, we also like to know who's watched what, and so a hashtag replay goes a long way for us on this end. And believe it or not, we're almost our 30-minute mark, so I'm going to give us a short plug myself for the Chamber, if that's okay, Sarah. And that is, it is Wednesday, September the 1st, which basically means that our board nomination applications are opening up. Stay tuned for all of those posts. Our awards gala nominations are already open. If you've not submitted a nomination for a business, now is the time to do so. You should not be ashamed to nominate yourself either. But of course, we had Sarah with us from Cross Country Mortgage. Sarah went in detail a little bit about her role, how long she's been doing it, this amazing perspective I feel that she has. She brings in this positivity and this drive to do and be better and to challenge herself, but then also is very humble and she's learning. And what that means is when you ask her questions, she'll find that answer, but then she'll also take guidance. And that's why she's super plugged in some of our own programming and outreach, so that way she can equip herself to the best of her ability. Sarah, it was so lovely to be able to sit on here with you and have people get to meet you virtually.
Thank you so much. I enjoyed it very much.
Yes, and I cannot wait to see you again in person, and for everyone else to see you. You were out at our annual event, the State of the City, and made everyone feel so welcome at our registration. So thank you so much for being such a great partner of ours, and of course, for providing a needed service in our community.
Absolutely. Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right. Have a great day.
Thanks.